Hello and welcome to Faithfully Stampin' with Jennifer Helm. I am Jennifer Helm, the Faithful Stamper and independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up. And today I have for you a fun fold pocket card. Quick and easy, with a little bit of flair. A simple insert that pops right into a pocket and just gives your card a little extra special something. This card does not require a lot of supplies and is a great way to use up some smaller pieces of designer series paper that you might have lying around your craft area. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing you're going to need is a piece of cardstock for your card base. This is 4¼ inches tall by 8½ inches wide. And it's a little bit different than your typical card, but it is very easy to form your pocket card. You're going to need a scoreboard or a scoring tool of some kind. We have one score to make on this card for it to be ready to go. It's a great thing because it doesn't require a lot of cutting and scoring. So on your 8½ inch side, go ahead and line it up in your scoring tool at 5½ and score. And then you can go ahead and set your scoring tool aside and we will start assembling your card. So simply I flip it over and then I fold up the smaller piece to form the pocket. And to start, we're simply going to be gluing some pieces of designer series paper to our project. The first thing I'm going to do is take a piece of designer series paper. This is 3¾ inches wide by 2 inches tall. We're going to glue this to the front of the pocket. And the reason I'm not going up any further is because we're going to create a little lip out of cardstock in a moment, and it's going to cover up. So I don't like to waste when I don't have to. So I'm going to take some adhesive. This is Stampin' Seal. You could use liquid glue for this as well if that is your preferred adhesive. I prefer tape runners, but it's totally up to you. And just go ahead and layer this on that front pocket. I like to leave a border at the bottom as well as on the sides, and it is a little bit wider than you might be used to, and it will be wider than the piece we're going to put here at the top. I'm going to use a coordinating print, and this is 4 inches wide by 2¾ inches tall. I just wanted to give this back piece a little something. You could leave it plain if you liked, but I liked it with a little bit of accent. And you'll see it is a little bit wider than the piece we're gluing at the bottom. Just another dimension to the card. This designer series paper that I am using today is from our Pansy suite. And I will show you the stamp set in just a minute that we're using to coordinate with that. So this gets layered right here at the top. And again, we're not making this piece any larger because when we fold up the pocket, it would hide that beautiful paper. And to form our cardstock lip, we have a piece of cardstock. This is Bumblebee, by the way, if I didn't mention that already. This is 4¼ inches wide by 1¼ inches tall. And I'm gonna layer a piece of designer series paper on it that is 1 inch tall by 4 inches wide. So a little bit of adhesive here, a little border around the edges, and then this is ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and attach this to my card. Now there's a couple ways you could do this. You can glue it flat on your card using your adhesive or glue. I decided to give it a little height and add some dimensionals. So I have our large dimensionals, and I'm just going to put 4 of them, 1 on either end and 2 in the middle. I don't want this piece to sag when I put it on the card, so I like to make sure I have coverage. And I'm going to peel the backing off my dimensionals. And then I find it easiest to flip my card open so that I'm not trying to see all the different papers and where they come together. It's just easier to open it up, and then I can match my edges and attach the cardstock lip just like so. Now I'm going to go ahead and work on the inside of the card. So this is the stamp set we're going to be using. This is the Pansy Patch stamp set. It is from our brand new annual catalog, which I will show you the cover of. It just debuted today, and if you do not currently have a demonstrator who you are working with and you would like to have a copy of this beautiful book in your hands, please reach out to me and I'd be happy to get in touch with you and send you one. So I'm going to keep that stamp set handy because we're going to talk a little bit more about that. I am going to bring over my Stampin' Pierce mat. This is a thick piece of foam. If you have a thin piece of foam at home as well, that's okay. I'm going to bring over a piece of scrap paper. And the reason I'm bringing my foam over is because my stamps are photopolymer. So they don't have a built-in cushion like the red rubber cling stamps. And I need that extra little cushion to get a good impression. So I have a scrap of basic white, and I'm using Evening Evergreen ink. It's going to coordinate with another piece of cardstock we're going to talk about in a minute. And a little tap, and bring this over, 1, 2, 3, and lift up. Remember, don't smush your stamps into your ink pads. You don't want to do CPR on your stamps. A little bit of ink goes a long way. And now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my double oval punch. This is a fantastic punch that came out in our January to June catalog. I'm going to take this strip of cardstock. This is Evening Evergreen, match the ink I just used, and I'm going to stamp the scalloped oval, or punch the scalloped oval. And then I'm going to cut the solid oval from the bottom where I just stamped the sentiment. I'm going to turn it upside down so I can see a little bit better what I'm doing here. Line it up, punch, and then I can layer that together in just a moment. But I have a piece of basic white. This is 3 1/4 inches by 4 1/2, and this is going to be the insert for my pocket. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp while I have my Stampin' Pierce mat out. I have 2 colors of ink. I have Fresh Freesia, which is one of our new ink colors that just debuted today, and then Bumblebee to pull in that beautiful yellow color from the card. And I'm going to be using those 2 colors to stamp the pansy. And I'm going to get a little descriptive here because trying to show you this on a clear stamp is a little difficult. First of all, I'm going to stamp with this more solid piece. Secondly, I'm going to stamp with this accent piece. So what I'm going to do first is take my solid piece. I'm going to stamp in my Fresh Freesia, but I'm going to stamp first, not on my cardstock, but on my piece of scrap paper. That's why I brought it over. This is called stamping off. So I'm going to stamp off just one time, and then stamp on my cardstock. And you can see the difference in the 2 stamps. It's a lighter color, and that's what I was going for here. Now I'm going to take the accent piece and again stamp in the Fresh Freesia, but I'm not going to stamp off. I'm going to stamp directly onto this lighter image, and I find it easiest with this stamp to line it up here on the side where this little indent is, this little break in the petals. And then look at that beautiful pansy outline. Now you'll see I have this little open space in the middle, so we're going to start filling that in. And I'm going to call this my little lion face, this little piece here. And this one I'm going to stamp in the Bumblebee ink. And I can line it up and fill it right in. It does leave a little white around the edges, and that's okay. Back to the stamp set, I'm going to use this little guy who I've decided looks like a Groucho nose with a mustache. And back to the Fresh Freesia, and just fill that in. And then my final step is going to be to stamp with what I'm dubbing the smallest stamp known to man. I'm going to use my scissors to point to it because my finger will swallow it up. This tiny little teardrop or cone shape here is the center of your pansy. So I'm going to take my Bumblebee ink, and then stamp here. Your cone goes to the top. And there you go. I have stamped my pansy for my insert. Now, all I need to do is a little bit more gluing, and I'm ready to go. First of all, I'm going to take a piece of cardstock. This is the Evening Evergreen. That is 3.5 by 4 3/4, and I'm just going to layer my basic white piece right on top. So again, a little adhesive. And again, this is the pocket piece, as I'm calling it. I'll set that to the side for a minute. And now I have my sentiment, which I stamped and punched. And this goes together. And I'll also set that to the side because we're ready for the ribbon. Now, if you don't like to fool with ribbon, you don't have to. I would simply suggest taking some liquid glue along the edges. You don't want tear and tape because it's really too wide. You'd have to fight your insert in or trim it down a little bit. But 2 lines of glue on the side would seal that shut as well. So it's up to you. What I am going to do though is take a little bit of my Stamp and Seal, if it's going to cooperate. It's camera shy. And I'm going to hold down, I'm going to tack down my ribbon there. This is Bumblebee Gingham ribbon. It's beautiful. And I wasn't sure I was going to like this at first, but it's really grown on me. Make sure your ribbon is flat on the back. And I only say that because the first one of these samples I put together, I had a twist in the back after I finished the whole card. I'm going to trim my ribbon. And this is actually probably going to tack down pretty well. I'm going to give it a little dab of glue just to keep it there. And then I'm going to want to attach my sentiment, and this way it covers that little seam, so now you don't even know it's there. But I don't like to use the large dimensionals when I'm dealing with ribbon because sometimes they don't stick quite as well to the ribbon surface. So what I like to do is take our mini dimensionals and put 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom. And I do that because it forms a little channel that my ribbon's going to fit right in. And so maybe part of an edge of a ribbon might catch on the dimensional, but basically it's going to keep the ribbon where I want it, but still tack it down and cover my seam. So now I can tuck that insert in there and I'm ready to go because I have my cute little pocket. But I want to give it a little something. Now you could just leave it like this, but what I'm going to do is make a faux bow. I'm not very good at tying a ribbon around and tying a bow all at the same time, but I'm going to make a little bow and trim it. Ooh. Trim up my other edge, and then I'm going to pull over a glue dot. These are our mini glue dots, fantastic for so many projects. And I'm just going to tack that bow right there. And there is my perfectly lovely pansy pocket card. And I stamped an envelope to match with the posies. So of course I like to show you lots of different ideas for cards. You can use them for any occasion. Here is a Christmas card that I put together. For this one, I skipped the ribbon entirely. I glued the sides shut to form the pocket, and I stamped my sentiment and made it a little bit larger so that I would have room to write below. The thing to remember if you're writing in the pocket cards is to just kind of eyeball where your pocket insert stops so you don't have writing showing above the pocket. Does that make sense? So there's a Christmas card, but I had to stay in the pansy patch for just a little bit. I needed some anniversary cards, so I pulled out another piece of the Pansy Designer Series paper, but instead of using the pansy patch stamp set, I used the Forever Fern stamp set and used the Love and Laughter Forever After sentiment. I can write Happy Anniversary down here, and I accented it with some leaves, which even though they're from a different stamp set, excuse me, they actually go with these leaves that are in the pansy set. So a beautiful card there, and I skipped the sentiment down here. I just let it speak for itself up here, but I did keep with the ribbon and again the faux bow to cover that seam. And last but not least, I did leave the pansy patch, but I stayed in the flower patch. And I used our new hand pen designer series paper, but I went with the purples. I have my sentiment here, but I did use the ribbon strip. I skipped the bow. And then as an accent on my pocket piece, I added some pastel pearls. But there's still plenty of room here for me to write my happy anniversary message. So I hope that you enjoyed making this easy fun fold pocket card. Thank you so much for tuning into my YouTube channel. I'd be delighted if you would press that subscribe button and come back and watch more of my crafting videos. And if you like, you can pop on over to Facebook and find me at The Faithful Stamper. I do Facebook Live videos twice a week, and then I post the videos here as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, and happy crafting.